was going to read some things here from my diary. Normally, when I do this, I mean, I have things like, I don't know, going back like 35 years that I read. But I was going to start tonight with things that I've just written since I started this tour a few weeks ago. Oops. October 28th, 2011, Dayton. At a signing the other night, I asked a woman what she was getting her boyfriend for Christmas. She was in her mid-50s, perfectly reasonable looking, and so it surprised me when she said, "He wants a leaf blower." "Leave him," I told her. I beg your pardon? If your boyfriend wants a leaf blower, you have the wrong boyfriend. And if you stay with him and buy him what he wants, you are going to rot in hell for an eternity. Those things make way too much noise. Either give him a rake or leave him. I've somehow gotten this idea lately that person by person I can actually affect policy. And rid the world of everything that annoys me. Like the night before last in Muskegon. "What's that perfume you're wearing?" I asked a young woman at my book signing table. She told me it was called Angels, and I said, as nicely as possible, that she needed to go home and pour it down the toilet. "It makes you smell like a whore." The middle-aged woman behind me agreed 100%. "Say," she whispered, passing me a copy of Squirrel Seeks Chipmunk, "this is for my mother, so do you think you could write something special?" This is another of my peeves, bossy inscription people. But this woman surprised me. "I want you to write, 'I'm sorry I tore your vagina.'" "You've got it," I said. October 24th, 2011, Columbus, Ohio. A car met me at the airport yesterday. The driver was black, very nice looking, and perhaps in his early 50s. "Where do you live?" he asked. "England," I said. And I guess he took it to mean that I was born there. "So where are you off to tomorrow?" I told him I was headed to Detroit, and he explained that here in America, that was known as the Motor City. It's where our automobile industry was located, and still is, as a matter of fact. I didn't want to embarrass him, so I said, "Really?" "Indeed it is. It's also the home of Motown Records. You ever hear of that?" "I think, yeah, I said, yeah, I have heard of it." For the rest of the drive, he told me things about the United States, and I pretended to be learning. "Gosh," I kept saying, "really? How interesting." October 31st, 2011, Athens, Georgia. 30 years ago, a coworker and I were eating lunch, and he told me that the previous night he'd gotten a call from his father. I really had to go to the bathroom, but couldn't get him off the line, he said. So what I did was shit in my hand. He presented it as a problem-solving story. So while my inner self whispered, "Oh no, you didn't," my outer one acted like, "Good thinking." The story has always stuck with me. And why wouldn't it? At its base, it harks back to an earlier, almost prehistoric era. This was what happened when phones had cords and were attached to the wall. And then there's the mental picture it presents. In one hand, a receiver, and in the other, a scalding mound of human feces. I repeated the story on Saturday night to someone I know better than just about anybody, a woman who shall remain nameless. And when I had finished, instead of laughing or making a horrified face, she said, "Haven't you ever shit in your hand?" This in the tone I might use when saying, "Haven't you ever washed whites in cold water?" Like it's one of those things you maybe don't do all the time, but when the situation arises, why not? I have never. We were in her car and it was late. College students dressed for Halloween crowded the sidewalks on either side of us, some of them howling like wolves. I haven't done it a lot, this person said, maybe 6 times. or 8. And always in a public toilet. I don't want to make a splashing sound, so what I do is go in my hand and then gently lower it into the water. Oh my God, I said. And you're telling me you've never done that? Are you kidding me? I said, no way. Well, I think most people do, she said. They maybe don't talk about it, but I'll bet you anything it's really common. I looked at her hand on the gear shift. The slender fingers ending in long sculpted nails. And I gasped. The good thing about being on tour is that you get to talk to strangers. And in a way you really can't to most people you don't know. "Excuse me," I said to a woman at last night's signing line. "I'm conducting a little survey and was wondering if you've ever shit in your hand." The woman was in her late 30s, nicely dressed, and I liked what she'd done with her hair. "Have I ever what?" she asked. I repeated the question, and she told me that if it was a splashing sound my friend was worried about, she should first fill the bowl with a big wad of toilet paper. "That's what I do," she said. It makes a sort of landing pad for my business to fall onto, so there's really no noise to speak of. "Or you could do like my friend Tara," said the woman behind her. "What she does is shit in a plastic bag, then just flush it away." What on earth? It's like I've discovered this whole new world. And then this is just regular diary. Oops, sorry. March 17th, 2010. London. This afternoon's Radio 4 quiz show included the line, "1 in 3 Americans weighs as much as the other 2. July 2nd, 2011, London. In Kansas City yesterday afternoon, a man named Melvin Douglas was arrested for sexually assaulting a woman who had passed out on the sidewalk. When the police caught up with him, he defended himself, saying, "I thought she was dead." August 24th, 2010. La Bagotière. I left the dressing room and had just approached the lip of the pool yesterday afternoon when the lifeguard pulled me aside. "Your bathing suit's on inside out," he whispered. "I beg your pardon?" "Your bathing suit," he repeated. "You are wearing it inside out." I followed his eyes and saw my swimsuit liner, looking like a pair of white mesh bikini briefs. Senselessly slipped over a slightly larger and uglier pair of underpants. I saw my pockets drooping like ragged ears from my sides. And then I covered my face and ran like a crazy person. July 20th, 2011, London. I walked into the kitchen as Hugh was listening to Sorry, But I Haven't a Clue. It's a BBC radio quiz show, and the category was movie titles that would be greatly changed with the removal of one letter. Think The Count of Monte Cristo, said the host. Count. Remove the O. March 18th, 2011, London. Before going to bed last night, I read an article about a Florida firefighter named Cindy Economou. A man lost his foot in a car accident she responded to a few years back. And instead of returning it, it seems she brought it home and used it to train her dog. Now the foot's rightful owner is suing her, though I'm not sure of the grounds. It couldn't be had been sewn back on, so she wasn't setting him back any. I doubt he wanted it as a souvenir or had hoped to employ it in the training of his own dog. Still, I suppose she should have asked his permission. But that's Cindy for you. Give her an inch and she'll take a mile. Give her a foot and she'll carry it into her backyard and throw it to a basset bag. April 1st, 2011, Washington, D.C. To those who don't travel very often, the Courtyard Marriott might seem like a decent enough hotel. It's clean, sure, and the staff is polite. I wouldn't give you 2 cents for its pillows, though, and the tubs are far too shallow for my taste. In the empty lobby of the one I stayed at the night before last in New Hampshire, there was a coffee bar, not a Starbucks, but a place that proudly served Starbucks and sold it alongside breakfast cereals and prepackaged sandwiches. I passed it on Wednesday afternoon while collecting an envelope from the desk clerk and decided to get myself a cup of coffee. Unfortunately, I hesitated, allowing just enough time for someone to move in ahead of me. I later learned that her name was Mrs. Munson, a towering, triple-chinned pile of a woman, wearing oversized glasses and a short-sleeved linen blazer. Beside her was a man I guessed to be her husband, and after looking up the menu board, she turned to him. "A latte," she said. "Now, is that the thing that Barbara likes to get? The one with whipped cream? Or is that called something else?" Oh, fuck, I thought. "I can do a latte with whipped cream on top," the young woman behind the counter said. She was fair and wore her shoulder-length hair pushed behind her ears. Tiny moles were scattered like buckshot across her face, which was bare but for a bit of eyeliner. "I can do one with flavors, too." "Really?" Mrs. Munson said. "What sorts of flavors?" In the end, she settled on caramel. Then her husband squinted up at the board, deciding after a good long while that he'd try one of those mocha something or others, and could he get that iced? As I groaned into my palm, he wandered off, and Mrs. Munson leaned her bulk against the counter. "Are you from this area?" she asked. "No? From Chester. Well, that's interesting. What brought you here?" I learned that the young woman used to work at the town's other hotel, which also had been bought by the Marriott and was now being remodeled. "So after it's done, will you stay put or go back over there?" Mrs. Munson asked. "Me, I have a son at the college here, so that's what I'm doing, just checking in. He's my second boy, actually." First one went here too, for business administration. He's not working in his field yet, but with unemployment as high as it is, should be lucky to have anything at all. If I've told him that once, I've told him 1,000 times. But of course, being young, he's impatient, which is natural. Wants to set the world on fire, and if it can't happen by tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., then life's just unfair and hardly worth living. What about you? Did you go to college? After what felt like weeks, the young woman finished with the orders. 2 cups the size of waste paper baskets placed upon the counter, and then Mr. Munson reappeared and pointed out the plate glass window toward a cluster of grim buildings on the other side of the parking lot. "What are those?" he asked. The woman behind the counter said that they used to belong to the college. Of course, that was before they expanded the west side of the campus. "And when was that?" Mr. Munson asked. He was a good 10 years older than his wife, early 70s maybe, and wore a baseball cap with a tattered brim. "Beg your pardon?" I said, "When did they expand the west side of the campus? Was it recent, or did they do it a long time ago?" "Who the hell cares?" I wanted to shout. "What are you, the official historian of Who Gives a Fuck College? Do you not notice that there's someone in line behind you? Someone who's been standing here rocking back and forth on his heels for the last 10 goddamn minutes while you and that brontosaurus run your stupid mouths about nothing?" I was this close to walking away, to marching off in a huff, but then Mrs. Munson would have turned to her husband and the girl behind the counter saying, "Some people." I'd gotten a similar reaction yesterday morning when I squeezed past a couple standing side by side on the moving walkway connecting concourses A and B. "In a great big hurry to meet that heart attack," the man called after me. I wanted to remind him that this was an airport and that some of us had a tight connection, if that was okay. But of course, I had no connection. I just couldn't bear to see him and his wife standing side by side, blocking the way of someone who might have a tight connection. The Munson's bill came to $8, which everyone agreed was a lot to pay for 2 cups of coffee. But they were large ones, and this was a vacation, sort of. Not like a trip to Florida, but you certainly couldn't do that at the drop of a hat. Especially with gas prices the way they are. Looking to go even higher. While talking, Mrs. Munson fished through her tremendous purse. Her wallet was eventually located, but then it seemed that the register was locked. So the best solution was to put the coffees on her bill. That's how I discovered her name and her room number. My only question then was what time I should arrange her wake-up call. Let's see how chipper you feel at 4 a.m. Then it was all about returning her wallet to her purse and getting that all safely zipped up before picking her drink off the counter and starting in on her long goodbye. When the two of them finally lumbered off toward the elevator, I approached the counter, hoping the woman behind it would roll her eyes, acknowledging that something really needed to be done about people like the Munsons. She didn't, though, so I decided I would hate her as much as I could. When she told me that her little stand didn't serve regular brewed coffee, I hated her even more. "I can do you a nice cappuccino," she said. "A nice latte, maybe?" This last word was delivered to my back as I stormed out the door. Then it was up the street and around the corner to a real coffee place. The pierced and tattooed staff members scowled at my approach, and I placed my order, confident that they would hate the Munsons as much or possibly even more than they already hated me. November 28th, 2010, Salt Lake City. A joke from last night's book signing. A man and a woman board the elevator at a medical donation center. "What are you selling?" the woman asks, and the guy answers, "Sperm." They pay $50 per visit. I like that, says the woman. I'm giving plasma and only getting $5. A month later, they again meet on the elevator. Back to give more plasma, asks the man. And the woman, her mouth obviously full, says, September 28th, 2011, Paris. Yesterday I read about that new app, Is My Son Gay, it's called. And it consists of 20 questions. Many have denounced it as lame, and though I agree that before he was born, did you wish he would be a girl, and are you divorced, are not particularly telling, there might be something to, does he like musical comedies? Other questions include, does he like to dress up nicely? Has he ever gotten into or participated in a fight? Does he have a best friend? Does he like diva singers? The questions leave me feeling sad. Not for gay teenagers, but for straight ones. Is your son friendless? Does he fight? Listen to tuneless, abrasive music that lyrics about killing people? Does he wear sweatpants to Christmas dinner? Congratulations, he's a heterosexual. October 31st, 2010, San Francisco. 2 excellent jokes from last night's book signing. Monica Lewinsky and Lorena Bobbitt are walking down the street when they're approached by a man in an overcoat. As he nears, he pulls it open, revealing the biggest, thickest penis either of them have ever seen. Say, Lorena, you still got that knife? Monica asks. Lorena reaches for her purse and answers yes. Good, says Monica, and she points to the corners of her mouth. I need you to cut me here and here. It's late at night, and a man is getting ready to go to bed when he hears a knock on his door. He opens it and then looks down to see a snail. Yes, it says, I'd like to talk to you about buying some magazine subscriptions. Furious at being disturbed. The man rears back, kicks the snail as hard as he can, and storms off to bed. 2 years later, there comes another knock. The man answers, and again he finds a snail, who looks up at him and says, what the fuck was that all about?